So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We had 200 people sign up for this, so that was really exciting. A lot of you are really excited to hear from Mac Thayer, who created and is the executive director of Junior Golf Scoreboard. My name is Katie Miles. I am the CEO and founder of Golf Globally, which is a company that helps college-bound high schoolers who are wanting to play college golf. I help them with the recruiting process. I'm going to talk a little bit about my background in a second, but I'm going to let Mac introduce himself and give us a little bit of an intro on him. All right, I'm going to switch this over to you. Okay, Mac, now you should be able to.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Excellent. I don't know if Katie, you can share your PowerPoint at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think I might be able to. Yeah, so do you have it up, but do you want to do it, or I can do it? I can actually probably do it and then have you be the host.
Whatever. We'll work it out.
Okay, we'll work it out. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm a former junior golf dad way back in the day, back in the late 90s, right? Yeah, back in the late 90s, just when the internet was coming online, the junior golf world was very fragmented. It was very hard to find out where tournaments were. It was impossible. So I did a little bit of a research and had some people help me, and we created the Junior Golf Scoreboard to be basically a big clearinghouse for every junior golf tournament that was a multi-round stroke play event that we could discover. And that's how we started. And my son was a good junior golfer. He ended up playing at Northwestern. He's still a very good amateur player in Colorado. And so over the years, we've added features and bells and whistles to the scoreboard. So basically, the thing that we're proud of is the tournament database. We list about 3,000 tournaments a year that from all over the world, mostly in the United States, of course, and Canada. And so parents and families can find tournaments to play in, and also build a calendar for the summer or during the year and know where all the tournaments are. And obviously the thing that most people we know the best are our rankings. So we've been doing it for 20 plus years, 23 years, 24 years this May. And we are followed by a huge audience of junior golfers, junior golf families, college coaches, college programs, tournament directors, and virtually every tournament out there wants to be a part of our system. And so we never really have to go find results. They send them to us all the time. So we're somebody once called us the Switzerland of junior golf. No, we don't do tournaments. We don't hold them. We just basically find out where they are, make sure people know how they can get into those tournaments. And then also we post all the results. And in the end, we're ranking about 13,000 different junior players, a total, boys and girls combined. So that's where we are. And that's who we are. And that's what we do.
Great. So Mac, can you sorry about the technical difficulties, everybody here. If you could make me the host again, I'll share our PowerPoint, and I think then we should both be visible.
Well, let's see, how do I do that?
Go to your name over on the right screen, go to my name, and then you can, here, I think actually, go to make host. You right click on the attendees or the panelists.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. I got it.
All right. Great. So
okay, you're the host.
There we go. Okay, thank you. All right, so do we see a presentation now?
Yes, it's a little squished, but we can see it, yes.
Is it? Here, do we need to see it bigger?
There it goes. That looks good. There you go. There you go.
did it screen share the whole thing?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, all right. Well, okay. All right, so I mentioned I would go a little bit into my background. I'm a former college coach, and that's really where I learned and met so many families who had questions about the college recruiting process. I left coaching in 2017, and that was when I started my business. So I have helped now almost 120 families with the college recruiting process. I help students find the right fit. And I have students on a lot of different college campuses, but some of the students are on those campuses featured on the right side. And I would like to say thank you to the coaches who are on this call, because there are quite a few coaches who are in this webinar right now learning about the junior rankings, which speaks to Mac, the importance of your product and what you've done with the rankings and what you've done for junior golf. So thank you. I also like to say that I was once a junior golfer. So for those of you who are on the call and you know, trying to navigate this process, it can be very difficult. Let's see. So I am also a future junior golf parent. Hopefully, I have a 1-year-old daughter who hopefully will play junior golf. And if she doesn't, then that's okay too. I want to give an overview of this presentation and what we're going to talk about. We did kind of jump into introductions a little bit, but I wanted to briefly kind of talk a little bit more about the JGS history and how Mac used a lot of information and talked to a lot of college coaches about this process, and created a product that a lot of coaches, thousands of coaches each year use. Mac, are you, hold on. Mac, are you there? Yes. Okay.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. All right. So we have, now my presentation is gone, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think what I'll do is I'll have it come up and then you can speak to each slide, and then we can take questions. What we'll do is take questions at the end when we have the question time. So I will continue to share this, and then Mac, when I'm sharing, you can still speak.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Okay.
Well, there you are. That's a slide, obviously, about me. All that is very true. Katie's done her research. Yeah, I did my undergraduate work at St. Lawrence and was an officer in the Navy, and was fortunate enough to be admitted to Wharton Graduate, where I did an MBA. And the last point is I've already mentioned was we really did build the JGS because at the time, if you wanted to find a junior tournament, you need to know a parent who knew something, who had a paper application. They would make a copy of it. They would send it to you. You'd put a check in the mail. You'd send it to the pro shop or whoever was holding the tournament, and you'd wait to hear back to see if you got in the tournament. And we just decided that there was a better way to do that. So we literally started in a closet, almost the equivalent of a closet. And Justin Hill, who was a college student at the time, helped me build a database in which we called all over the country trying to find about junior golf tournaments. Then as we moved on a little bit, took a couple of years, we started getting enough results to do rankings. And we got some college coaches to tell us what they wanted in the ranking system. And basically the line was, get the ball in the hole. Build us a system around scoring. That's what golf is about. That's what it is. It's about getting the ball in the hole and how well can you play. And so here we were in the early days of the internet, like the last bullet point there. the early days of the internet. And we had a chance to start building that database and taking the coach's advice. And then so the rankings came online a couple of years after we started. So that's kind of the history pretty much. Yep, there you go. 13,000. I guess that's 13,400, almost 13,500. And we've had more tournaments on JGS than ever. And what's really interesting, it's not only 3,000 tournaments, but when you think about every tournament has at least a couple of age groups, you can double that. We're getting more global feedback or interest or results than ever before, particularly from Southeast Asia, Malaysia, India. We're getting some out of Mexico. We're getting some out of, where else am I thinking about? Oh, we even got a tournament out of Jordan. Not that one tournament matters, but we're starting to get them from around the world. And so we represent all the US states and Canada, all the tournaments in Canada and many countries. Now, we don't have all the countries. We particularly don't have Europe yet, but we grow every year with the number of countries that we have. Okay, let me just jump in here a little quick because I know people want to ask questions, and Katie's going to be feeding me some questions as we go along. For a junior golfer to be ranked on the junior golf scoreboard, you just basically have to participate in 4 multi-round junior golf stroke play tournaments in which you have a total of 8 rounds within the last 365 days. By the way, each one of these I'm not going to get in great detail about because you can read about it on our website. If you go to our website under rankings and honors, there's a pull down menu that says about the rankings. And so I'm not going to get too deep into that tonight because I don't want to repeat on the website. But if you just make a note, all the information about the rankings and how they work is on our website. So I'm not going to get down in the weeds on this, but just stay at a higher level so we can go through more material. The how and why some players lose their ranking, basically they fall off because they don't have enough tournaments. That's the only reason. They haven't played enough to keep up the required number over the last rolling 365 days. So that's a brief answer to that.
One thing I want to add too is sometimes I get the question from families of like, well, so-and-so's going to that school and, he doesn't even have a good ranking. But at one point, probably 2 years before, he probably had a great ranking. And he might be playing in more amateur events that aren't on Junior Golf Scoreboard anymore. And so sometimes the full story might not be what you see currently, but maybe it was what that ranking was in the past.
Well, that's particularly true because if you get seniors in high school, they will stop playing junior golf. And they will go on, particularly if they've verbally committed or whatever to a college. The coaches will encourage them to play amateur tournaments and start playing up in age to get used to that level of competition. So it's not uncommon for players who are seniors, in the fall of their senior year in high school, or certainly maybe in the spring, they will stop playing junior tournaments.
Yes.
Well, this one is an easy answer here. This is guidelines for junior golfers. And I can tell you, I've heard this question 100 times. And the answer is play better. The junior golf scoreboard is sick. The mathematics of the junior golf scoreboard is built around scoring compared to the difficulty of the golf course. And that is just basically the way it is. It's about getting the ball in the hole. Now, there is a factor for the quality of your competition and your finishes. But by far and away, the most important part of the ranking is scoring, is playing golf and playing as best you can. There's no other factor that is more important that will help you more than just playing better. I know that sounds simple. But that's the way it works. That's the way the sport works. Hurt your ranking? Well, if you don't play good. I mean, if you don't play well and you start putting up numbers that are not as good as they were before, then obviously your ranking is going to decline. The only other way you might hurt your ranking a little bit is that you play in tournaments with small fields. Small fields will sort of depress your strength of field, which is another factor in the rankings. but there's, as long as you're trying out there and you're trying your best, there's really no conscious way you can hurt your ranking than if you go and play in small fields. This is particularly true of girls who have demonstrated their ability to play and they're ready to move up and they've sort of learned how to play golf. And because there are fewer girls playing the game, particularly in the United States, when you've learned how to play and you can break 85 or you can break 82 or you're starting to shoot in the high 70s, and then you keep playing in smaller tournaments of only 6 or 7 girls, that's not going to help. So that is one thing that will, quote, hurt, unquote, your ranking.
So let's talk about the different components that put together that total ranking.
We can do that. Again, this is on the scoreboard under About Rankings, under Rankings and Honors, and there's a pull-down menu, About Rankings. So if you want to make a note of that, you can, because I'm not going to get into this too deeply. But the scoring differential is basically the difference between your score round by round, a player's score round by round, compared to the USGA rating of the golf course. So if you a player shoots a 76, a young man or a young woman shoots a 76, and the course rating is a 72, then that's a +4 differential. So that's what the differential is. And that's what we use to determine the mass majority of the rankings calculations math. And how it's measured, I just mentioned. It's the course rating, it's your score minus the course rating. So I'll stop there for a second in case anybody has a quick question about that. Now, there's a little bit more to that. We only count your best, 75% of your best differentials. But so if you have a bad day, you have a bad first round at a tournament, jump right back in there the second round and do your best because your first round might not count anyway. So junior golfers have bad golf. They play bad golf. They have bad rounds. Every junior golfer has a bad round. Relative to how they've been playing. It happens to all of us. It happens to me. So that's why we only count 75% of those differentials. Why do coaches care so much? Well, let me put a big fat asterisk on that. My experience has been a few years ago, the AJGA and us began to ask coaches where in their recruiting criteria the rankings were in relative to importance. And they said like sixth in their importance. There were so many other factors that they were involved. They may care in the sense that it gives them an overview of the sport, but as far as one individual and where they're ranked, there's too many other things. First of all, you have to be an academic fit for the school. That's one of the things. What kind of scores are you shooting? Yeah, you might be ranked. You might have a good this or good that, but what kind of yardages are you playing? How big are the fields you're playing against? So it's not just whether you're ranked 197th in your class. That's not important. What's important is when they pull up your events history, they can get a sense of who and what you're about and what you're doing. That's really, I've had a ton of coaches tell me that. Now, I will also tell you, and I've had this confirmed over and over and over again, and this is where I need parents and players to stop obsessing, is that a player who is ranked 190, say a player is ranked 175th in their class or 275th in their class. First of all, they're a very good golfer. The coach is not going to recruit you because you're better than the player who's ranked 280th. That's not going to happen. The coaches know that within a certain range of players, let's say from 225 to 290, those are all basically the same players. In addition to that, the math is so close, so tight by tenths of a point that they're all the same players, right? They'll tell you, the best schools will tell you the top 50 players in a class are basically pretty much the same players. And so everybody should be looking at their class rank. And number two, what range are you in? Are you in the 150 to 200 or the 200 to 300 or the 175 to 250 range, somewhere in there, because that's all the coaches really look at. You're not going anywhere because you're ranked 225 ahead of the player who's 226 and 227. That's no coach is going to make a decision based on that. So the next thing is strength of tournament. That's basically 25% of the math to calculate the ranking, and it's just based upon how good the players are in the field. We look at the players in the field, we figure out what their scoring differentials were before the tournament started, and that strength of schedule tells us how good the field was. And by the way, that's a very fluid number because we recalculate that every time we run the rankings. Because players leave a tournament and they go and play better. Well, that means they were a better player than they were in that tournament, or they play worse. So that number will change. You can be at home sitting on a couch and that number will change and you haven't done anything. Well, that has nothing to do with you because it has to do with the other players.
Do you want me to read these or you?
Yeah, I'm looking at that question about pulling out of a tournament. We can get to that later.
Okay, yeah.
Question, quotes from college coaches. I'll let them, first thing I do when I get an email is to plug her name into JGS. That's right. And they do that. They'll check up, on a player to see how good they really are. My advice is to players and parents. Somebody once said this to me, all cards on the table. Don't be hiding any bad scores. Coaches know you have bad days. What they're really looking for is if you have a bad round and if you can bounce back. So don't, all cards on the table. So because they're going to check the scoreboard anyway. The next one, we're in the top 75 in that class. Well, that's obviously a very, very top D1 program that has the ability to recruit the very best players. One of the things I will tell you, another note, if you want to write this down, is if you go to our website, and I think we may have a slide here in a minute of it, is on our website under rankings and honors, there is a pull-down menu. Again, at the bottom of the pull-down menu is our list of college signees for the last 4 years or 5 years. And you can see boys and girls, and you can sort that by last name. You can sort it by school name. You can sort it by D1, D2, D3. You can score it by scoring differential or class rank. And you can see where students are going based upon how you sort things. So you can sort it by a school. If you want to see the kinds of players that Vanderbilt, for instance, is recruiting, you just sort that alphabetically, look up Vanderbilt at the bottom of the list under V, and you can see the kind of caliber of players they've been recruiting. And you can do that for 2 or 3 years. So that's a great way to use our website. Don't use our website for just the rankings. Use our website for other purposes, like look at the college signees, see where you fit, where you might fit.
I love the last one. It makes me laugh.
Yeah, the last one. I don't use the rankings much, but I call Mac and ask him to tell me which recruits are good. There are coaches who don't use our system. We have a lot of power tools for coaches, and we don't have them all. Well, we have a lot. We have a lot of them from all shapes and sizes of schools. First of all, coaches can have a basic account with us for free, basic tools for free, and then they can upgrade from there. But the idea is, again, to them, rankings don't mean much. But if that coach calls me, if they called me and they said, I'd say, well, coach, based upon how you've recruited in the past, take a look in this range of players in the rankings. But there are schools, for instance, D3s, some D2s, it's a single coach. They have no recruiting budget. They may have a little scholarship money, but they have no assistant, and they really rely on players contacting them.
All right.
This is a screenshot of the rankings. And you can see underneath each player's name, the school where they've signed, as far as we know. This happens to be the boys, the top boys in class 2022. You can see the kind of scoring differentials they have, and you can see that they've been playing in the top tournaments.
Here's the
Yeah. Here's the signees list for class of 2022. And this is sort of, it doesn't show it on the screen, but basically this is the signees list under rankings and honors. You can see the menu bar at the top, and that has a pull down menu, which will take you to this list, which I just described. Yep. Here's where you, yep. I'm not sure what, oh yeah, and again, this is another section of the rankings. I guess these are all players. This happens to be the kids that are ranked over 400 and higher. You can see that Dylan Hebert at the top has a negative scoring differential. He's ranked 401 overall. That's not his class rank. He's probably better than that in his class rank. But again, he has a negative scoring differential, and he's kind of playing in medium strength of field tournaments.
one thing that I want to add to that I suggest to my students is if we saw the page before where we had, or 2 pages ago, where we had these players, right?
Right.
You know, if I have a player that's like, I really want to play at UVA, but they're like way lower than this page. But UVA has got 2 players on the first page.
Yep.
I have to just kind of say, hey, wait a second, this does not line up. And so what I suggest is looking at where you fall in the rankings and look at some of the players maybe in the class ahead of you, or in some cases in your same class if you're not committed yet, if you're a senior, and look at where the players around you have signed. If it's schools that you're not talking to because you think you're better than, then you probably need to have a realistic talk with yourself about the types of places that would be a good fit.
I think Katie's talking about the concept of best fit. If you haven't heard that term, you should get that in your brain, but a best fit. Where is your best fit school? And that's what Katie is just talking about. I've also noticed on this page that one name is highlighted in green. That's Kenny Lesueur. Kenny has well, he's already signed. So he had a golf and academic resume with us. Pretty good player. I can tell you that if coaches were in this neck of the woods on the rankings, he got more looks than anybody else on this page, mainly because he's made it so easy for coaches to learn more about him. And Kenny, I think, had like 60 some views of his resume, which we track on our scoreboard. He didn't know what coaches, because we don't keep track of that, but he did know that he had a bunch of resumes. I mean, a bunch of coach views on his resume.
So we talked about this a little bit, but.
Yeah, I'll let you talk about this slide, Katie.
Okay. So as I mentioned, looking to, you know, your page in the rankings and the students that are around you, and kind of being realistic about the types of places that those players are committed. And then be realistic about, you know, if the schools that you are looking at are similar to the types of schools that other players have committed to that are ranked around you and have a similar differential to you, then that's good. If you are, you know, maybe looking at only top 25 programs and the players that are around you are signing with programs in the like 200 to 250 range, then that's probably not a good use of time for you to still hope that something's going to happen, you know, at say a top 25 program. It's realistic also to know that coaches are probably going to bring in 1 to 3 players per year. So if you see already, if you're maybe a senior and you're still not committed, this would probably be happening more in the fall when those commitments start happening and showing up on Junior Golf Scoreboard. If you see, you know, a school maybe that already has like 3 or 4 people verbally are committed on that list, that wouldn't be verbally committed, that would be signed, then, you know, probably realistically, there are no more spots for your class.
I will add to that is that you focus on your class rank. Okay, and where your scoring differential is compared to the scoring differentials on the signees list is what Katie was talking about. It's hard to find out about verbals. We don't track them. Golf Week does, and the AJGA does somewhat. We don't track verbals, and so it's kind of hard to find out. But another trick is if you are a junior or a sophomore and you wonder how many players a particular school is going to be recruiting, go to the golf team website at the university. Every team has their own website in the university athletics department, and look at their roster and find, if you're a sophomore in high school, look at the sophomores on the team, because they will be graduating from college the same year you're graduating. And that can kind of give you a ballpark number of how many players the coach might be recruiting in your graduation year.
Great. I'm going to stop sharing because we've got some questions now. And then I see we have some other questions in the chat. So I'm going to start with some of the submitted questions. I think you somewhat answered the first one already, though, Mac. What's the biggest factor that determines ranking? Are you saying that is scores?
Get the scores, play better. I mean,
Okay.
It just does. And one of the ways to realize that, if you look at your scoring differential and you say it's a 3, right? Run your, if you shoot one shot better per 9, all right, that's 2 shots around, okay? Slide your finger up the rankings from your number 3.0, slide it up to where the 2.5s and 2.4s are in your class. Remember, your class. That's what coaches recruit by. They recruit by grad year. So you slide your finger up the rankings in your class till you start hitting the 2.5s, 2.4s, and 2.3s. You will be surprised how far you will move just by not 3-putting. That's the way I put it.
Just one last time. That's it. You could still 3-putt. Just one.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So what events carry the most weight?
Well, if you're talking about events, mathematically, it's the big events. It's the ones that are invitationals. There are ones that you have to qualify for, like the PGA Junior Championship, the US Junior, the Western Junior. Well, the Western doesn't have qualifiers, but anyway, you have to, the Western uses the Junior Golf Scoreboard rankings. The Scott Robertson uses the Junior Golf Scoreboard rankings. The Dustin Johnson uses the Junior Golf Scoreboard rankings. I'm not sure Sage Valley does, but anyway, the best tournaments are going to invite the best players. They're invitationals. They qualify. So you got to work your way through the system. You basically do, and play better. And that's how you manage that the best. You just get the best tournaments you can. You really can't manage it, by the way, other than to play better and get invited. That's how that works.
So I checked this. This is accurate. My son, this checks out. I checked the rankings for this to fact check. My son hovers around the top 10 for his graduating class. What is the secret to maintaining or moving up? It seems like it's playing on longer golf courses.
If you're in the top 10 of your class, go play the golf course. Just whatever. Don't play in small tournaments. If you're in the top 10 of your class, you're obviously getting into good events. Go play the golf course. If you're in the top 10, yeah, it's nice to be number 1, and you'll get a nice trophy from us at some point if you're overall number 1. But it's not something, that's not something you want to be managing a junior golf career around. You really aren't. It's to move from 10 to 9 to 8, it's like, it's kind of like being able to shoot 71 instead of 72. I mean, it's, once you get down to that level of golf, it's tough to improve. And when you're at number 10 in your class, just whoever your son or daughter is, they're wonderful golfers. They're fine. They're going to probably get 5 offers from school. And they just keep playing great golf. That's the best way to do it. You can't manage it by tournaments other than to make sure you apply to the ones that where the competition is the best. I mean, make sure you apply to those and try to get in. But other than that, just.
Yeah, that's another thing, parents, that especially if I've got like a really good player that's got a certain ranking in his class or her class, it's like, let's apply to anything that you fill the entry criteria for. Especially if they're close to like a top 50 or whatever, some of the elite invitationals, like they're, if they're within that 50 and it's close, it's like, no, let's get this in. Let's make sure that you apply to these things. So that's another reason that the rankings are important, is all of the tournaments that Mac was mentioning, the big ones, they select their fields based on the rankings.
Well, they also have qualifiers. I mean, Junior Worlds,
Yes.
for instance. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, US Junior at the moment.
Not that one.
At the moment, the US Junior is not using our system. They're using Wagger instead. There's a quiet campaign going on that there are good junior golfers being left on the sidelines who deserve to play in the US Juniors, but we're working with them. We'll see.
Okay. Here's an important one, an interesting one. I live in a cold weather place now after moving from California. My son's scoring average, and I grew up in cold weather. My son's scoring average is affected by the bad weather conditions during the winter months. Do you suggest not playing in northern events during these months, or do you account for the weather in the rankings?
Okay, let me start with one comment, and the tours are going to hate me. They're all going to hate me when I say this. Golf was never intended to be played in the snow. It's like, that's not what golf was intended. PGA tournaments have been shut down for a day because of snow. It was never meant to be played in bad weather. You don't see tennis being played in snow and 40-mile-an-hour winds. It's just, that's not the nature of the sport. However, be that as it may, there are times when you can play. I mean, if it's a sunny day and, the course is okay, it's not soggy wet, and, and the wind's not blowing too hard, you can go and play golf. And I love playing golf when it's like 55 and it's sunny. It's great. I have no problem with that. Put on a vest and away we go. But the thing we use to adjust for what we call course conditions is what is called our CCA, course condition adjustment. So we do have a system for accounting for that. It's been in effect for about a year and a half. We've done thousands, tens of thousands of rounds of golf. I won't get into the math of it. You can read about that on our website under About Rankings. Look for the CCA and you can see how it works. But it takes into account all course conditions. Everybody is focused on weather. That's one, yes. But speed of the greens that we don't know about, yardage that was played that they tell us about, how fast were the fairways, how soggy were the fairways, how long was the rough, is the course basically playing differently than the day it was rated by the State Golf Association. And course setup. I mean, AJGA, they don't set up their courses according to the course rating. I can tell you that right now. They make it tough, and they don't mess around. The Dustin Johnson, for instance, that course setup is not according to the rating of the golf course. So we can mathematically, statistically figure that out, that there was some quote course condition that affected the way the field played. And so we account for that. It has to exceed a certain statistical boundary before we start giving shots or taking them away, which I don't think we've done for a while. But sometimes courses can play real easy. I mean, they could just, be crazy easy because of the whatever course conditions, but that doesn't happen very often. But anyway, so that's how that works. And the answer is yes. If you have an adverse course condition, not necessarily just weather, we do have a way of sort of catching that.
Okay, so that was one of the next question was the exact formula, but I'm just going to refer them to the website. Okay.
Yeah, the website. Yeah. Go to the website under About Rankings, and it's there.
Okay. Can you please explain how the adjusted course rating score is calculated after each tournament? Or is that
adjusted? That's the CCA.
Okay, that's the same thing.
That's the CCA. It's the same thing.
Okay. I'm a PGA professional and have kids at many levels. What is your general advice to help them with their tournament planning?
I'm going to give a quick answer because Katie, I'm sure you have some advice there. Their tournament planning, well, there's 100 things, not 100 things, but there are half a dozen things to think about. How good a golfer are they? I mean, what are they doing? How can they play? It makes no point trying to go play in a qualifier for an AJGA when you can't break 80. I mean, it makes no sense. So first of all, find tournaments that are commensurate with the player's ability. Get on the golf course, learn how to play when every shot counts. I will give one piece of advice to parents, however, and I did this with my son. He went to a couple of AJGAs. He did not play well. We were spending, never mind the money, but it was just frustrating and emotionally tough. So I said to him, I said, Christopher, how about we don't go to any more until you break 150 for 2 rounds in a row on your home course from 6,800 yards, 2 consecutive rounds, or maybe it was 148. I said, if you got to do that in the home course because you just got to put that kind of pressure on you. And I've given that advice to a lot of parents, make them earn it, make them earn it to get out there. And he did it in 1 day or 2 days. So it was pretty quick. And they counted every shot. No gimmies, no nothing. He did it and we were off and running again. It was a great lesson for him and it worked like a charm. And, it's another thing to do is look at tournaments. If you're thinking about going to a tournament, look at the same tournament from a year ago and look at the scores in that tournament and figure out what it's going to take you to get to a top 10. And if it's going to take 150 or less to get in the top 10 and you've never broken 160 at your home course, yes, you can go. It's good experience, shows you what it's going to take to get better. But to keep going to tournaments, let's find out why, anyway. So that's my advice to the PGA professional.
Okay. All right. I am a college coach of a Division I program. Do you have any advice for coaches looking to recruit the best coaches or best players possible? How, in your opinion, how do these rankings translate into college players?
Well, I think our signees list is an answer to that. I think if you look at the rankings and sort them by grad year, it looks into that. I think, we obviously have an account that coaches can pay for. Part of it, the basic part is free, but they want to upgrade, and there's a whole bunch of power tools that we have to find players. I think what happens with looking at the junior golf world is that the rankings give you an overview of what the talent level is. And there's so many factors. I mean, I would say to this coach, okay, like most coaches, are you recruiting regionally? In other words, if you're in California and your world is California, then you're not recruiting a kid from Kansas. If you're in Kansas, you might recruit a kid from any number of 5 states in the Midwest. So you can sort our rankings by region, West Coast, Midwest, Northeast. And so you can look to see the level of talent in those areas and what's available. And then, you just sort of build a recruit list of kids you want to follow, and we'll send you scores automatically to your email. And there's that tool. There's a bunch of other tools that are available. If you will send me an email at MACT as in Tom, at Junior Golf Scoreboard, all spelled out, .com, I'll be glad to go through that with you some more. That email, by the way, is good for any parents that are on here, and want to send me an email after this is over. Please do. I do this all the time with parents.
The chat. Yeah, and I will echo what you said about that toggle, like sorting by state location tool. When I coached at Indiana, we did a lot of that because we were recruiting against Big Ten schools a lot, and looking at the states nearby and the other states that had Big Ten schools, I used that feature a lot. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to learn as much as I can for my son, who's a 2028. What recommendations do you have for parents of kids who are not in high school yet?
Have fun.
Okay.
Have fun. Don't worry about it. Don't be flying all over. I mean, if you've got the resources and the time and you have a very talented player and you live in West Virginia and you want to go to Junior Worlds because it's in California and it'll be fun, go for it. That's fine. But just keep it fun. 8th grade and below, just keep it fun. Enjoy it, learn, have fun for everybody, family included, and just keep it fun. You don't have to be flying all over the country as an 8th grader. And I've seen parents fly out of Minnesota to go to Florida for a week, and their kids aren't ready. They're just not ready to play. Again, the people in Florida aren't going to be happy about me telling you that, but yeah, just keep it fun. Just don't worry about it. Just get better. Rather than spend a bunch of money going to some faraway tournament, put it into lessons.
Do you recommend, let's see. Well, no, I want to ask that one. How does an international event get recognized by Junior Golf Scoreboard?
Same way any other event. You have to have a multi-round stroke play event conducted under the USGA rules of golf on a USGA rated golf course. The World Handicap System, which is now in progress of being built, is being built on the premise that all the golf courses in the world are going to be rated on the USGA rated system. And there are several countries that already have that in place. So as long as you follow the rules of golf, multi-round, 5 or more players in an age group on a USGA rated golf course, and we can validate it that it's a real tournament by seeing a website or whatever, a tour website. Tournaments don't have to pay any money. You don't have to pay any money to be listed. You don't have to pay any money to send us your results. It's just what we do.
Okay. I remember that USGA rated course was a difficulty in Thailand, but I think a lot of the courses are now on the same.
They're getting there. They're getting there.
All right. Let's look at the, we have quite an active chat group here.
Go ahead.
All right. So, this is a conversation that you and I had earlier today, Mac, and I'm so glad that Julie brought it up. Parents nowadays play with the system by pulling out kids from tournaments when they have a bad round. Does JGS account for withdrawals of players? Do college coaches look at the number of withdrawals of a player from tournaments played? It's a trend in junior golf by some parents, and she is right. It is a trend.
Well, okay, let me address that. First of all, shame on the parents. I'm sorry to give you tough love, parents, but if you let your kid do that, that's shame on you. Okay. So as to the other parents who make their kids stay and finish, you're giving them a wonderful opportunity to just go back to the hotel, do whatever, have a nice meal, shake it off, and get out there the next day. That's what we ought to be teaching our kids. Now, as far as gaming the system is concerned, first of all, any complete round that they played counts. So if they have a bad first round and they don't play the second round, then that first round is going to count, because the tournaments will, if the tournaments are on top of it, they will report it to us. When that happens, a player has a WD for all the public to see. They shoot an 87, it's going to show up on the scoreboard, it's going to be in the rankings, and they're going to have a WD after their name. And so, one WD, coach might shake and say, okay, what happened while I was sick? Fine. You start putting more WDs on there, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do it. Every person who's in the business that Katie's in has told their parents, do not do that. That's not good. Another thing is, but there are parents who think they're gaming the system. Well, they may game this system with one WD, Now, the worst thing is when you let your kid walk off the golf course without finishing the round. And that's a no card. And we have worked very hard with tournaments and send them an annual letter trying to get all tournament directors on the same page as to what a WD is and what a no card is. I can tell you in Florida that Kevin Fullenkamp at the Florida Junior Golf Tour does not mess around. He reported 7 no cards to us last week. He doesn't tolerate it at all. You walk off the golf course, he doesn't care what the reason is. You know, I suppose if he came back with a patient first, you know, medical receipt, he might change it to a WD. But, you know, you don't want to get a no card. That's not good. That's definitely not good. So if the tournaments, however, don't report it to us, and they're sort of hemming and hawing about, well, I don't want to argue with the parent, that you as a parent have 2 obligations. One, you should express your concern to the tournament directors about it in the appropriate constructive way and let them know that that's unacceptable. But I'll tell you another thing you can do, and most parents haven't thought about this. If you see a tournament director standing their ground with another tournament official about, you know, arguing with the tournament official, and that tournament official stands their ground, please, after that's over, walk up to the tournament official and say thank you. Golf is a game of integrity, honesty, and discipline. It's the only way the game survives. We call the rules on ourselves. And if we don't have honesty, integrity, and discipline in the game, we don't have a game. So it's important. You got to see something, you say something. And I do have parents who call me about it, and we research it, and we follow up, and we kind of, you know, if there's a tournament tour group that isn't quite on the right page with this, we can't force them. We can't force a tournament director to change a WD to a no card or force them to tell us about this stuff. We can only browbeat them a little bit about it and say, hey, come on. Because I can tell you, there are tours like the Golf Week Tour, the Florida Junior Golf Tour, the AJGA, and lots of other tours that have, now that they know everybody else is being tough about it, they're getting more tough about it. Now, I will also say that we rank 13,000 players. And I would doubt, you may see it and it's real obvious, but of all the junior golf families in the United States, this is a 1% problem, which is 130 families. Or maybe they get a 2% family. I don't even think it's close to that. You may see it because you play a particular event, there's a particular player who does it all the time. But in general, most families don't let their kids quit. They don't let them do that. They stand by the integrity of the game. The tournament officials are doing their best, and we are on top of it. If we see a tour and we find out a tour is not doing their best to stand the ground about WDs and no cards, we're very proactive about that because we feel it's our obligation to protect the integrity of the sport, and it's also our obligation to protect the integrity of what we're doing. But I would tell you, parents getting away with it by allowing their kids to do that, we all know there's 1 or 2%. And I don't care if it's your business, your church, your school, there's always 1 or 2%. You can't build a system that catches all that.
Yeah. And I will say, you mentioned it earlier, but when coaches see that in the rankings, they see it, it's like there's a lot of questions and they're probably not interested. If they see more than 2, probably not.
They see more than 1.
Yeah. If they see more than 1, sorry. If they see 2 or more. Yeah.
They see 2 or more, that's it.
Yeah.
You're not, you might still get a coach's attention, but either A, you're a quitter, or B, you're injured.
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
Which is another recurring injury. Ugh.
Yeah, you don't want an injured recruit.
Right. What and how much of the website is available to players, to player coaches as opposed to college coaches? So that question must be referring to like a swing coach or something.
Yeah, it might be a swing coach. It might be somebody who is doing what you're doing, Katie. I think that's what they're talking about.
Yep.
That's a case by case basis.
Okay.
I mean, Katie has an account with us, like a college account. So does John Brooks. So does Nikki and Ted. You know, because this is a long-term relationship with that. But you know, mostly it's just for college coaches.
I will say though, you can pay for an account as a parent or a swing coach or anybody. You can pay to be able to. You pay $29. Is it $29.99?
31.95.
$31.95 annually to be able to sign into the rankings and see more scores and things like that.
Mhm.
And that way you can also filter by class rank and things like that. Otherwise, it would take you a really long time to count and see where you're.
Yeah, you'll be able to sort. You'll be able to sort. You'll get more premium content. You'll be able to sort by state, by region, by class. And the other thing too is you can click on any player's event number and pull up their playing history for the last year. That's good for you to check on your own child to make sure we have everything. But it's also if you want to see what everybody else is playing in, you know, you see a player who's ranked higher, better, and you sort of want to, you know, see what they're playing. And you can do that on when you have a ranking subscription, you can check on anybody else.
And that's also, I'm glad you mentioned that because I've had 2 times now where the reported scores were like they misspelled the last name. And so that affected that player's ranking, and then it affected his ability to be ranked when he didn't have enough scores because they were on 2 separate accounts. So you guys fixed it, but it's good as a parent to make sure that the numbers and everything are correct.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Hey, mom and dad, figure out what your kid's name is and sign him up the same way every time, please. Don't sign him up as John David when he wants to be known as David. I just fixed one of those today. And the dad said, yeah, my wife and I didn't exactly get on the same page. So you can help us because the way we uniquely identify our player is first name, last name, city, state, all in one string, no spaces.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to get all that right.
Okay. I know we're coming up to the end of our time here. Do you have a few more minutes to answer some questions, or do we need to
Sure,
wrap?
keep going. Yeah, keep going. We got
Okay.
people seem to be sticking around.
So we've got, should you play selective tournaments when your game is best, or will one bad tournament affect the scoring differential?
No, because if it's outside the range of your best differentials, as I said, if you have 20 scores, we're only counting the best 15 differentials.
Yes.
So if you have a bad
75%.
tournament, it's probably not going to count.
Yeah. And that's
And then
important.
if you have a bad tournament, you got to remember that's an opportunity. Why did I play bad? You know, did I sort of putt like crazy, or did I, why did I play bad? It's a wonderful opportunity to go out and fix it.
So when you hear students say, oh, I can't wait for my bad scores to fall off my ranking, that really doesn't matter, because they're probably if it's like 2 scores and you've got like 50 scores in there, those 2 scores that are going to fall off aren't going to actually help you.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me correct that. Let's say you have 285s, right?
Okay. Yes.
And they're old scores, right?
Yes.
And because they're being thrown out, I'm only using a small number, so it's easy. Let's say those 285s are not counting, okay? But the 278s are, because the 85s are the ones that are not counting, all right? So if the 85s drop off, then it's the 78s that won't be counting.
Yes.
And that will help your differential.
Yes.
Provided you haven't shot more 85s.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So how do you begin to build your rankings? Any 2-day tournaments, for example, what do you recommend? Golf Week, AJGA, Hurricane, etc.
Well, AJGA is the top of the heap. They're the gold standard. Okay, they're the major leagues. Golf Week, the Golf Week Tour is a very good tour. The Hurricane Tour is a very good tour. the Mid-American Junior Golf Tour. They're all the Florida Junior Golf Tour and the Toyota Tour Cup in Southern California. Oh my word. I was like, they're all competitive. It basically learn how to play, learn to get the ball in the hole. When you're starting out, you probably want to focus on what I call developmental tours. Developmental tours are tours for kids who are kind of just learning to play, building a little tournament experience. That's Hurricane. That's what Hurricane is, basically. And a little step up from that, quality-wise, is Todd Thompson's Southeastern Junior Golf Tour. That's a little bit step up from that. He's been at it a long time, runs a quality operation. Alex Martin Golf Week Junior Tour is, it comes and goes, but Alex is a little bit above that too. But they're basically developmental tours in the sense that they don't have the caliber of fields that the AJGA has. They don't have the caliber of fields of the best independent tournaments, but they're there for you to build a playing history. And if you play well, if you learn to play well, and since scoring is what matters, you'll do fine.
Okay, we'll do two more questions. Okay. Let's see, for tournament. Okay, saw that. Let's see, wait, hold on here. For tournament levels, state, regional, nationals, junior golf scoreboard count, score, consider anything different. I think I'll have to answer that one individually because I need to maybe clarify that one. All right.
Okay.
Can coaches see scores from longer than a year ago?
Yes. They can see your entire playing history if they have an account with us.
Awesome. Okay.
Yes, they can. They can see all the scores in the database for the last 20 years. More importantly, if they have an account with us, they can see how you're trending. There's actually a mathematical algorithm that we use to show them how you're trending.
So the scores. Okay, so I think that answer to Angela's question is 75% of the last scores. Okay.
75% of the last differentials.
Sorry, differentials.
Lowest, not last. 75% of the lowest differentials.
Of the lowest differentials over the last calendar year.
Over the last calendar year, correct.
Yes. In the tournament history page, do you maintain all tournaments ever played or just the last year or the ones that are counted?
That's correct. If you click on a player's event number, if you have a ranking subscription, and you click on a player's events number, it'll pull up all their tournaments from the last 365 days. And those are the ones that are going into the calculation.
And so it looks like the follow-up question to that, we're going past the questions, she's the same question, same person. Is there a way you mark which tournaments count towards the differential? No, right? You don't, it just does it automatically.
No, it just does it automatically.
Based on the rating.
There are people who are, shall we say, insurance actuaries and accountants and people who really love to do their own Excel spreadsheets. And we get Excel spreadsheets from parents, not so often, but occasionally. And we look them over and we find the mistake that they made. And then when we fix it, it matches the scoreboard exactly. And they write back to us, oh, thank you, never mind.
Well, you've got to account for those, right?
I love it. I love it if a parent does that. I don't want to get a lot of them, but I love it because if I send it back to them and show them how it's done and the bottom of the Excel sheet matches exactly what's on the website that day, if they go to the next time they're at a tournament sharing a blooming onion at Outback with a set of parents and some parents complaining about it, they'll say, well, actually, I talked to the guys at the scoreboard. They're right on the number. So.
And I will say, Mac, so thank you so much for your time tonight. We should wrap up. But I will say, echoing the sentiment from parents, you were always that way with the coaches. You're able to answer questions and you're just very, for the parents that are on this, if you ever have questions, Mac has given us his email address, but
Yep.
he's got a whole staff of people that answer questions for junior golf families. And
Yeah, please send me any questions.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we didn't talk about, which Katie is really on top of, is, but we are too here at the Score, is how can you be visible? How can I be as visible to coaches besides shooting good numbers? How can I have coaches discover me? And I showed you that one player who had a golf and academic resume. That's something that we offer. And if you're thinking about doing that, which is important to do, to put your best foot forward, just when you're trying to make that decision of how and when you're going to do that, there's only one website where coaches are on all the time.
And it's thousands of times a year. So
It's
that was
thousands and thousands and thousands of times. What?
For coaches, can you just, as we kind of like wrap up, can you give us the number for coaches, the thousands of times they're logging in per year?
Well, it varies. I mean, there are coaches that will log in. Usually they have an assistant coach who's really in charge of recruiting. And so the assistant coach and or the head coach together can log in 1,500 to 2,000 times a year. There are coaches that only sign in 300 or 400 times a year. That might be a top Division I school that has more verbal commits than they know what to do with, but it's frequent, and it's mostly D1 schools that do it, that have coaches accounts with us. But all the coaches, regardless of whether they pay or they're free, can see the resume database. And we track how many times the resumes are viewed by coaches. We don't know which ones, we don't do that. But we know that the better your score is, the more times your resume gets looked at. And you will be noticed before all the players around you in the rankings that don't have one. It's just a fact, because you've made it so easy for a coach to learn more about you and to start tracking you automatically. Your goal is to get into a coach's tracking recruit folder so that they can follow you, even though you may not know it, so they can follow you. That's your goal, is to have a coach start following you. They'll send it to my commercial.
Well, thank you again, Mac. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us on a Thursday night. I'll also put oh no, you all got emails from me. Never mind, you don't need my information. You already have it. So they have yours, Mac. Thanks again. We'll hopefully see some of you guys on a golf course in the near future.
Good luck. Play well, everybody.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.